Hey there guys, what's up? Ragtter here, welcoming you to Pokémon Showdown. This is an instant replay because Showdown servers are being a bit wonky and I can't get the normal replay for this match, but I absolutely have to share it because it was such a good game. This is an NU match that I had while preparing for ladder anxiety. My opponent was super duper friendly and they played super well, so I wanted to get this battle out to you in any way that I could, and this is the best way. So I designed this team to be pretty offensive, and my opponent led off with a Gyrogeist Super, which I don't have the best answers for on this team, but I can make it work. And I led off with Lantern because my team is, like I said, pretty offensive, and I wanted to get the safe switch into something. And it turns out my Lantern is actually faster than the Gyrogeist. I shouldn't honestly be that surprised. So Rotom does end up taking this Leech Seed damage, which is not optimal. Now Fion comes in, and Fion ends up burned. This is a Spell Tag Hex Will-O-Wisp Rotom, but instead of going for the Hex, I decided I'm just going to Volt Switch. I don't want to give too much Leech Seed health to this thing, and I Volt Switch out into Lantern, who unfortunately takes the Toxic, but I do run Heal Bell on this Lantern, so it is not the biggest deal in the world. Now as my opponent switches out of Fion and into Ditto, I'm anticipating that Volt Switch. I go for the Heal Bell and I get rid of my Toxic. Now I have a Lantern out here I have to deal with, and again, don't really have the best answers for this, but I do have Rotom. So my opponent does go for their own Heal Bell, getting rid of that burn on the Fion from earlier, but I am going to go for an additional burn, now without fear of a Status Absorber, and Meowstic is going to take that damage, and it's actually going to take this Hex pretty nicely because of its Light Screen, which it got up just in the nick of time. It is going to get off an additional Reflect as well. I do manage to take it out as it barely survives the Hex. It goes down to my Volt Switch, but he's got 2 layers of protection up right now, and I Volt Switch out to Rhydon. Now, I had wanted when I sent out this Rhydon to get my Stealth Rocks up, and I think it would have made a big impact on how the rest of the game went, but out of sheer curiosity, I had to know how much would a Mega Horn do, and it turns out it does 43%. So I had to switch out, and I figured Vivillon might be safe. I was anticipating the Energy Ball again, but my opponent astounds me by nailing me with a Psychic. It knocks me down to my Focus Sash, and then I overestimate Vivillon's speed, and it goes down to the Mr. Mime. So now I go into old Tauros here, and I figured I might as well just go for the Rock Climb. Probably going to bring in the Gyrogeist, but I do have the Substitute to protect against that. And sure enough, I go for the Substitute, and Gyrogeist goes for the Will-O-Wisp, so I'm able to stall a turn there. And the Light Screen goes down in that time, and while I saw my Zen Headbutt didn't really do much with the Reflect Up, I know I can buy one more turn with an additional Substitute. I do just that. I lose about 50% of my HP, but I do get to keep my Tauros, and now both layers of protection are down. So I send in Rhydon as death fodder so that I can get a safe switch into Sock. This Sock is incredible. That Choice Band knockoff annihilates most of that Gyrogeist's HP, but Sock does take the Will-O-Wisp for its sins. I do have Lantern with the Heal Bell though, so I'm not overly concerned about that. Instead, I'm going to switch into Rotom, and Rotom is once again going to take the Leech Seed. Poor Rotom, getting picked on. It's also going to take the Shadow Sneak, but with its dying breath, Rotom is going to be able to get the Will-O-Wisp off onto the Gyrogeist Super, and I think honestly that made a big difference in this battle. Now I go back into Tauros, and Tauros wants revenge. Tauros didn't really get to do much of anything last time. Now my opponent switches into the Ditto, and Ditto takes that Zen Headbutt very well, and it basically boils down to who's going to get their Rock Climb off first. I knew the Ditto would choice Scarf, and I was prepared to leave Tauros in here to take it, but my opponent actually misses their Rock Climb. Tauros is able to pick up the KO onto the Ditto, and now as Regigigas comes in, it's able to get an Endeavor off to knock it down to extremely low amounts of HP. Now with Regigigas severely weakened, I'm going to go into Lantern, and I'm going to get my Heal Bell off. But my opponent was very smart anticipating that, obviously realizing I wanted to keep my Sock around, and sets up a Substitute, which I then Volt Switch. I get a critical hit, and it's still not enough to break the sub. I go into Sock, who takes the Drain Punch excellently. Sock has excellent bulk for the NU tier, but Sock takes a Return in Kind, and I am locked into the knockoff, so this isn't going to do the damage that I want to, basically. If Gyarageist had had an item, it would have gotten that KO. But because of the burn from earlier, like I said, I am able to get Gyarageist out of there, so thank you, Rotom. Getting post-Homuous KOs. Now, Mr. Mime is the biggest obstacle in my way. It knocks itself down very low as it tries to break through Lantern, but my Lantern is very invested in special defense. It takes it extremely well, and I go for the Volt Switch, but Fione hangs on with 1% HP. Now I am really counting on taking out this Fione because I'm not sure I can take out the Regigigas and the Mr. Mime with just my Lantern. But Fione does go down and Regigigas comes in. It's still got the slow start on. I still have a chance. Sawk goes for one last knockoff. Regigigas goes down, but I know Sawk is going to go down to the Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime is going to take Life Orb damage though, and that puts it between Mr. Mime and Lantern. And if Mr. Mime can break through Lantern's special defense, then I've lost this game. But Mr. Mime goes for the Lantern, goes for the Energy Ball onto Lantern rather. It knocks it down very low, but it's not enough. The Life Orb takes Mr. Mime out of the game itself, and that's it. That game was incredible. I loved that so much. I had so much fun playing it. I wish I had been recording live. It would have made for a great ladder anxiety episode. Especially because at the end, my opponent was so friendly. It was such a relief to see that they took that loss well and they were a good sport about it. As you can see there, we were complimenting each other. It turns out that my opponent was actually running this as a PU team trying to challenge the other tiers. So the fact that I almost lost is a real testament to how good my opponent is with his team. So big kudos to my opponent. If you see them on Pokemon Showdown, be sure to give them a high five because they played amazingly. I definitely want to come back to the NU tier in the future though. So if you are excited for that, please let me know with a like and a comment down below. Tell me how much fun you've had, and I will be seeing you next time as we return to Pokemon Showdown. Until then, take care and have a good one. Bye-bye!